Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Side Hustle Ideas. I am Bill, the company's expert. Hopefully you can hear me and see me okay. It's a very informal affair, being the holidays, and almost the last day in 2024. So hopefully you had a half-decent 2024. If you are here, you're possibly thinking about starting a side hustle or starting a company or doing some kind of entrepreneurial venture. So hopefully you'll be able to get that off the ground in 2025 if it isn't off the ground yet. That's what we're here to talk about. Welcome. The title of today's episode of Side Hustle Ideas is called The Secret Formula: How Business Fields Work Together for Growth. And this is more of a general business topic that applies not only to small business and startups and side hustles, but to big business too, or medium-sized business. This is something I'm more used to talking about, although we're going to be doing it in a very general way today, which is something a bit new to me. And because it's the holidays, of course, I've done absolutely no preparation. It was all a very rushed affair to get here on time for this thing to launch. So if you're here with me, welcome. I see there's 5 people here. You guys are awesome. Thank you for joining me. Special shout out goes to my YouTube channel members and Patreons and super thanks donors. And of course, you guys that are here now, the participants. This is an interactive live stream. That means that there's a chat box somewhere near my face if you are watching this on a device of some kind. So get in the chat and interact. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know what you're struggling with, what you're wondering about. And I will help you out. This is the live stream where we talk about entrepreneurship-related topics. The most obvious is side hustles, because that's the easiest way into this world for a lot of people. You don't have to quit your day job. You don't really have to do anything much. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You just have to spend a little bit of time learning. It's a learning journey to know what to do. And once you know what to do, the rest is easy. So, yeah, let's get on with this. There are 16 people now. Thank you for being here. You guys are awesome. Let's dive in. Okay. So, as I said, today we're going to be talking about a topic that's mainly tuned in to big business. The larger the business operation, the more this takes in effect. But this is also super important because it impacts people on the small end of things too. If you're doing a one-person company or a small business, or even a side hustle, which is like technically less than a one-person company. It's like one person part-time, you know? This also has an impact. And basically, let's just dive into this. I don't have a structure here, so I'm just going to go in. So the topic, once again, is the secret formula: how business fields work together for growth. Now, what I mean by business fields are the different areas of business. So things like accounting, finance, sales, marketing, operations, a lot of things within operations like quality, safety, all that kind of thing. Organizational theory or organizational behavior, which includes things like leadership, stuff like that. These are all different perspectives, different ways of looking at business, okay? And the reality is that the true reality of what's actually going on in the business and how to look at it and what you should do is a combination of all of them. So if you're only wearing one hat and looking at your business, say you're looking at it from the perspective of an accountant, okay? Your perspective is very important. It's crucial to success. However, it is only a partial view of the reality. Okay, and I have argued for many years that if you look at business from only one perspective, you have a very flawed, slanted, distorted view of it, and you are not taking into account a lot of the real issues, because the real issues in growing a business stem from the fact that different perspectives will have conflicting priorities and goals. Okay. For example, let's take an obvious example, or something that I think is obvious, but I know it isn't obvious to some people. Something like safety, okay? Let's pretend, we're talking about a slightly larger business, maybe about 20 people. They have a little operation where they manufacture a product. And in order to manufacture the product, you've got machines, right? And machine operators. And, you might be playing with some possibly hazardous substances like chemicals or something like that. Anyway, the point is that, there's some safety factor to your operation. People need to be trained. People need to wear personal protective equipment. Okay. And if you start cutting corners and not following safety rules, bad things can happen. People can get hurt or worse. And so from a safety perspective, we want lots of effort paid to rules and regulations, like processes that are safe, and the enforcement of those processes and rules. We want to pay attention to spending money on personal protective equipment. We want to spend money and attention on working with products that are safer and all this kind of stuff. All of this costs money. It takes time and therefore slows things down, and you have to divert capital to pay for safety, right? If you put money and attention into safety, you can make things very, very safe. If you don't put any time or attention or capital into safety related things, chances are you will have an unsafe operation, which will lead to costs down the line to do with people getting hurt or, other sort of safety issues like incidents in the workplace where nobody gets hurt, but there's property damage, or you damage the stock of equipment you're working on, stuff like that. You damage your tooling, all that kind of stuff. It's going to result in a lot of costs down the line that usually are much greater than the prevention that it would have cost you if you'd put money into your safety program. Okay, so the bottom line is it's a trade-off between money or safety, right? The more attention and cash you spend on safety-related activities, the safer you're going to be. The less cash you spend on that, the more unsafe you're going to be, but you will still end up paying down the line when stuff goes wrong. Okay? So imagine if the person running your operation was like a safety person, and they were tuned into safety, much more than a typical business owner. So everything you did was really, really safe. It might not be as profitable. Maybe you go overboard on safety. You take prevention to such a limit that it goes against profitability. The point I'm trying to make is that safety and profitability go like this. They're compromised. They're what I call a contradiction, a conflict. When one goes up, the other goes down. And as a result, there's a temptation for people to want to neglect safety because they will make more money in the short term. Not usually in the long term, but in the short term, there's a temptation, right? Now, I don't want to get into the ethics of safety. I'm just trying to illustrate how if you look at everything from the perspective of safety, it can be in a direct conflict to looking at everything from the point of view of profitability. So if you had an accountant that was looking at, profitability, and that's kind of their primary focus, they would probably not see eye to eye with, say, the person that's the head of safety for a small business. Okay, these are contradictions. They have conflicting perspectives. That's the first concept I wanted to establish here. Welcome, Nadal. This is a live stream not about how to get a job. This is a live stream about entrepreneurship and side hustles, hence the name. So I won't be asking. I will be back later this afternoon to do a live stream about job search and all that kind of stuff. Thank you very much, Sacco, if that's how you say your name. Thank you for being here and saying such kind things. Okay, so hopefully I've illustrated the point how looking at business from different perspectives can have conflicting goals. Okay, now here are some other things. What might be helpful actually would be to talk about the different areas of business. So I'm going to see if I can make this more visual. I'm going to pull up a web browser here. Let's see if I can get a web browser. I'm going to share my screen. And for want of a starting point, I haven't done any revision or preparation for this, just so you guys know. I'm very unprofessional. It's the holidays. What can I say? Hopefully you're having some good holidays too. Okay, I'm just going to pull up a ChatGPT prompt. Let's see if I can share my screen. Okay, right now, why would I start here? I can maybe see if I can get ChatGPT to quickly come up with a structure for this, since I haven't prepared one. So how would I phrase this? Let's move my microphone. That's a problem that YouTubers always have, by the way, is where to put their microphone, right? You see, I got this thing here, and I put it underneath so you can't see it. But the problem is when I try and type, it gets right in the way because it's right over top of my keyboard that's in front of me. So I'm gonna move this slightly out of the way here. Hopefully you can still hear me okay. Okay, so let's see here. How would I phrase this? So the conflicting perspectives on business growth. You like my typing there? Business growth by area. Now, here are some of the main areas of business, okay, that have completely different perspectives that conflict. Accounting, okay, they tend to be focused on profitability. Finance, they tend to be focused more on ROI and cash flow. Marketing, they tend to be focused more on things like market share and customer loyalty. Sales, they tend to be focused more on sales numbers, whether it's by volume or by revenue. Let's see, org theory, let's call it that. Okay, that's more leadership, influencing, internal communication, that kind of thing. Economics, that should have actually come after sales, actually, because it directly affects that. Those are the big ones. I mean, there's all kinds of others. There's quality. You know, there's all kinds of things in there. Let's just do this. And I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see what it says here. Okay, let's just see what this thing came up with, and I'm going to comment on it. Okay, so accounting. Focus on, financial reporting. Accounting is mainly focused on profitability. Okay, that's its number one metric. And profitability, just so everyone knows, profitability is an interpretation of the financial numbers. Because, for example, what is a cost and what is an investment, right? It can be a matter of interpretation of what you're doing with that money. Is it a necessary evil, or is it something that we see it as, you know, we might want to build on that in the future, in which case it's an investment. You see what I did there? It's all a matter of interpretation. Okay, now finance. Now, for those who don't know, accounting is money in the past and the present, and finance is money in the future. So finance answers the question of what should we do, not what we've done. What have we done? Okay, so finance focuses on things like ROI, return on investment, placing values on projects and initiatives and things like this. The problem with finance is that because it's in the future and you're trying to make future predictions, it really can get into a lot of hocus pocus, opinion-driven stuff very quickly. You know, placing values and valuation on different things in the future, that can get very, subjective. And so the way finance is usually done is that you tend to believe not the numbers, but you believe the person who has a track record of delivering on their predictions. That's usually how that works. Okay. Marketing. Hopefully everybody knows marketing is the study of customers or potential customers. So in marketing, they would care about something like market share, about I don't know what it says here. Yeah, it says market share, branding, customer satisfaction. You would care about how you're delighting your customers. Okay. And this can lead to a ton of conflicts. Like, for example, if you are a marketing type person and you are running a business and you're trying to grow it, you might be really focused in on, customer satisfaction, things like this. And you might really want to try and delight your customers, which is a great thing. But you can have a blind spot for the accounting side of things where you don't realize it's costing you an arm and a leg to try and delight your customers, and it may not be the optimal thing to do. Okay. Let's get back to this. So that's marketing. Now, marketing is technically, in the real world, it's different from sales. Sales is technically a component of the marketing operation. It's more of the practical application of marketing, where you're actually just trying to make sales, and that's what you're focused on purely. So sales, okay, is a different perspective. They want to make sales numbers. They would love you to reduce your price, so it would be easier for the salespeople to make more sales, right? You're offering a better deal. The tendency is for the sales department, like anyone else, to want to have an easy time. So, they don't really care too much about profitability directly. They care about their sales targets. And as a result, they will want to reduce the price. They will want to offer more. And those things can directly conflict with, like, first of all, the accounting perspective, where, you're giving away our profit right there. You're offering a better deal to the customer. We're making less money. Maybe you should work harder to make the same number of sales, but at a higher price point, by improving your techniques. Things like this, right? Contradictions. Okay. What does it say? Revenue generation and customer acquisition. Okay. So things like this. Okay. Organizational theory. This is where, you're working on the organization. You're tuned into influencing. You're tuned into problem solving. You're tuned into communication. This is where we get issues like the boss says we're going to do something, and everybody knows that it's going to fail for a very specific reason, but nobody is being listened to when they bring these objections, right? And as a result, we go ahead, we do the thing the boss wanted, and it fails for the reason we all saw coming. And we are left wondering why we are not being listened to, and hence why we're failing. We could have avoided this, right? So issues like that, right? There's a tendency of people that come from this world to focus on the internal workings of the business itself, caring about the communication and the morale and all that kind of stuff, which is a good thing, but it can be a distraction and a conflict, taking us away from other things that we should be focusing on. Economics. Now, this should have gone right after sales, because at a business level, in terms of microeconomics, this is where you're trying to figure out things like where can we set our price and how it will affect our quantity sold, number of units, to produce the maximum profitability. There'll be a point where there's a maximum revenue. There'll be a point where there's a maximum profitability, and it might be a bit of a sweet spot. Maybe you have data to do this and you can do this, or maybe you don't. But this is the kind of thing that you would care about if you were tuned into, as I slap my microphone around, if you're tuned into economics, right? Which is a completely different perspective from everything that we've mentioned already. It's a little bit of accounting. It's a little bit of, operations, as it is applied in small business. Okay, now they've gone into quality. I guess I did say quality. I would term this as strategic management. Okay. One of the things that you may learn if you study business is, a lot of people have asked the $1 million question. It's actually more like a $1 trillion question. What is the best business strategy I should adopt to maximize my financial performance, right? What should I do to make the most money? And people have been studying this for many, many years. And there is an answer that's data-driven, that's peer-reviewed, and it's been around for decades. And basically, it's the quality approach, okay? In the United States, I've talked about this many times, Boston Consulting Group, BCG, they have been pushing this for many, many years. They work with businesses and promote a lot of initiatives that derive from this. Basically, it's saying that the company that has the highest quality will be the biggest winner when it comes to financial success. Okay? So that means if you can build a product that's better at what it does than your competitors, you will win out. financially. That's what it's saying. Now, you could do that in many different ways. You could be like a very exclusive, high price kind of thing where you produce a small number of units, but you make a massive profit on each unit. That's one way of doing it. Another way is you are a very high quality brand, but you are also a volume brand. So, you sell, like for example, here, look, I have got this. Now, I'm not going to launch into a tirade about how bad I think Tim Hortons is and how inferior their product is. They are competing, they sell coffee and donuts. They are competing on price. So they are the low-cost winner. They have a very efficient supply chain. They've got economies of scale. And so as a result, they sell a lot of coffee for cheap. But is it good? No, it isn't. I would say it isn't. And if you want proof of that, it's that other competitors, things like traditionally Starbucks, can come in and say, look, we're going to sell exactly the same thing. We're going to sell a cup of coffee. We're going to deliver it the same way. You go to the store, you order it, but we're going to sell it for 5 times the price of what you're selling. And we're going to win. And the reason why Starbucks wins is because there's certainly a certain number of people out there that just want good coffee, and they don't mind paying a bit extra for it. So Starbucks can come in and say, we're going to offer exactly the same product as you, except we're going to charge 5 times the price. It's maybe a little better quality. It tastes better. Maybe in theory, when you order the coffee from us, the person serving it to you smiles instead of looking like they want to kill themselves, like you see on a regular basis at some of the competitors. And that's their business strategy. And it works. And they're highly profitable. Selling a product at a much higher price. It's because their quality is good. They're not saying we're not pricing it out of the range for most people. We're still keeping it within the range of what they would pay, but it's the higher quality option. So we get volume and we get, profit per unit that's way higher. So that's what allows premium brands like Starbucks. So this is the secret to success. Doing what you do better than anyone else is the secret to success. What a shock there, right? But you'd be surprised at how many people don't do that because you get distracted by wanting to keep your profit per unit up and all this kind of stuff. You don't want to invest money in your operation and all this when it seems like you don't have to. That's why most people don't take this approach, and it shows. They lose. Okay, where were we here? Okay, now they've done operations management. This is like quality and stuff like that. That's just making sure that your production processes are good. It's not the same thing as the quality I was talking about. This is technically something called conformance quality, which is how closely your product meets a spec, right? It has nothing to do with things like, say, customer satisfaction or customer perception of how good they think your product is. It has nothing to do with that. Okay. Okay, sustainability. Yeah, like you could lump all that in with like safety and stuff like that. So these are different perspectives on business. And what I've been navigating for many, many years is the conflicts and contradictions between these various perspectives. For example, in a lot of companies, where do they put the IT department? Usually, at the end of the day, the IT department is run by an accountant. Sure, you might have like a technical person in charge of the department, but then they report to a chief financial officer or something like that. They have the IT under the chief financial officer. That's usually not a good way of doing it because the chief financial officer, usually being some type of accountant at heart, will view the IT department as a cost that needs to be reduced, as opposed to looking at the IT department as a strategic resource that can be your secret weapon to giving you efficiency gains and quality gains that would make your product better than your competitors. You've automated more stuff. You've brought computers into the process to help you make a better product, to help you analyze the market better. They see the IT department as that kind of resource that can give you the edge, not as a cost that needs to be reduced. You see, it's two different ways of looking at it. So this is a real thing that a lot of businesses do, and a real missed opportunity, right? But you have to navigate these choices. Gabriel is here. Hello, Gabriel. Gabriel says, hope everyone is having a good day. I'm having a great day. This is more the stuff I enjoy talking about. I don't usually talk about it in this extremely general way, but this is the stuff I really like. There's a lot of potential when you talk about this stuff to spot flaws in what you're doing as a business and be able to fix problems and be able to gain advantages over your competitors by looking inwards at like this kind of stuff and how different decisions are made, and maybe they're not made from the right perspective. Have you ever seen this happen in a place you've worked where, you know, maybe something was driven by accounting decisions when maybe they shouldn't be, or you wonder if they really need to be handled like that? Maybe they should be delivered more from a sales perspective, or maybe not, right? You know what I mean? These are directly conflicting things. If you're a CEO, if you're a business owner, you might have your sort of lieutenants in charge of your different departments, and your accountant will be telling you need to do this one thing, go in this direction. Meanwhile, your sales manager will be telling you to go in completely in the opposite direction, and you have to make a call, right? And usually it's not like one dimensional this way or that. Usually it's like on a plane or a surface. You can go in all kinds of different ways, right? You know, because there's all kinds of different factors here. Like, for example, you could do something that maybe the sales manager and the accountant agree on. We should make this change. We should spend our money here and make, you know, do this initiative. But from the perspective of the morale of employees and maybe the incentive structure and how their compensation is structured, it's going to send some real mixed messages to them that might result in some weird behaviors going forward. It looks like they're being rewarded, or they're being asked to do more for less reward, when in fact they could do another thing, get more reward for less work, but it would not support the initiative. Like that's a whole other dimension when you consider employees and what their motivations are. So there's all kinds of different dimensions here, and being able to look at these things from different perspectives really helps. So your director of HR might have a third sort of recommendation. They want you to go in a completely different direction. And they bring up issues that you're going to run into if you take the advice of the accountant and the sales manager who are united in something, right? Gabriel says, what you were telling us is very interesting. When you said how a company views the IT department, it set in my mind a cost. Yeah. Now, Gabriel continues. This is why going forward in my tech choices, excuse me, I'm going with building speed, the tech that builds products the fastest. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so like in your tech choices, I don't fully understand the context that you mean that in. Like, are you designing products and you're trying to build them fast? Or do you mean it in some other context? But yeah, like there's so many contradictions. And like if you're running a business, you're constantly having to navigate these conflicting sort of problems, right? You know, from the perspective of accounting, we should do this. But from the perspective of, you know, marketing, we should do the exact opposite, right? How many times have you seen that? Where I talked about this recently, where you had several high-profile brands that a lot of people know these brands as these were brands that either right now or in the past were regarded as the leaders of that type of product, right? So, you know, kitchen equipment, it was KitchenAid. You know, construction tools like drills and hammers and stuff is DeWalt, right? And I did an entire episode on this where these brands, they made their name by having very high quality. They were perceived as the leaders of their fields. But what happened in most of these companies was the initial founder of the company left or took more of a backseat kind of role, and they let the accountants in. And so what did the accountants do? The accountants, they stopped a lot of innovation. They stopped a lot of like pouring money into R&D to develop new and better products because it was seen as optional. It doesn't directly contribute to the bottom line. It's just a cost. So we can reduce that cost, right? By cutting back. Then they cheaped out on components for their products. So if your product is an assembly of components that you've bought from other companies, maybe, just industrial distributors or something, they're going with cheaper components to save money. So that sounds good on paper, but that only works if the cheaper components deliver the same quality. They provide the same performance, they are consistent, and they last as long, and they can take abuse or, whatever metrics you have. It only works if you're paying less for the same quality, right? If you're paying less for lower quality, according to this strategy that I mentioned earlier, which is almost universally accepted, you lose, because now what you've got is you're charging your customers premium prices for a product that is not, in fact, better quality than the competitors. It's crappy. It's unreliable. It doesn't perform as well. It's inconsistent. And so as a result, you ruin the reputation of your brand, right? So that's when the marketing people, there's a lag. It's a lagging indicator. The marketing people get all up in arms because they see that your name is no longer as respected. And if you do that thing where you test customer relative perceived quality, you go to your customers and you say, take a piece of paper and write down a top 10, okay, of people in this business, whatever business it is, cars or construction equipment or kitchen equipment, whatever. And you write them in order of which one you think is the best. So number 1 will be the best brand, the most desirable, and number 10 will be the least desirable, the worst brand. So give me your top 10 in order of how good you think they are, right? Now, obviously, like how good is going to be is going to mean different things to different people. But if you are consistently number 1 in the eyes of the potential market, good things will come, okay, for you financially. You could have a premium product that you charge a lot of money for, but it's not really mainstream. Or you could have you reduce your price and you sell more quantity than your competitors because it's better than your competitors. And you make your money by having a higher quantity sold. You will win. But if you're cheaping out with the components in your product, you're no longer going to be number 1. You might be down to number 10, right? So in order to make the same sales volume, you'd have to lower your prices, make less profit per unit, or you keep your prices the same, but you sell a smaller quantity, which also amounts to lower profit, right? So whichever way you slice it, you lose. Your quality has to be number 1 in the eyes of your customer. That's that ultimate metric, customer relative perceived quality. And they're not looking at you in absolute terms. They're looking at you compared with your competitors. If you're out to lunch, but all your competitors are out to lunch, it won't matter as much. But if you're out to lunch and all your competitors are on their A game, that's bad. Gabriel says, I'm a developer programming in the products, actually building them and shipping them on the web. Okay. Well, listen, there are a lot of advantages with a quicker turnaround time. Your projects are more predictable. There's less likelihood that they will run into hidden costs or missed schedules or anything like that. You get quicker feedback, quicker turnaround times, so that if you do if you have a flop on your hands, you can rapidly get it out of the way and move on, right? There's all kinds of advantages that come with a quicker turnaround time. So that's not a bad idea, okay? You could do a lot worse than adopt that strategy. Miguel says, I just want to thank you for sharing with all of us your experience and knowledge. I've learned so much since I subscribed to your channel. Well, thank you very much, Miguel. That's very, very gracious of you to say, and I'm glad that it's helping out. If you have any specific questions, I'm happy to entertain them. I often don't know what people are interested in or care about. So if you have any feedback about that kind of stuff, share it in the chat about specifics, and I'll be happy to go into it. Yeah, so this is the problem. When you have a company, you have to pick someone who's in charge, and then you have to pick sort of the heads of department or the areas of responsibility. And, depending on, how, like the boss themselves, how they came up through the ranks, if they came up through sales or operations or accounting, they will have a completely different take on how to run that company. And this can be a weakness. It can be a flaw because nobody's strong in every area. Usually you have one area that you kind of have depth skill sets in, but all the other areas you don't, right? You might know a bit about each of them, and you should, but no one can be equally strong in every area, just impossible. So you're not going to get that like completely shared perspective of how to look at all these different issues. This is why a lot of bigger companies employ a lot of consultants, because they, if I can let you in on a secret, a lot of business leaders are really nowhere near as confident as they appear to be. They really don't know what to do. It's hard to make these decisions. And as a result, it forces them to, over years, it forces them to be very conservative, because if every time you tried something new, 90% of the time it fails, you quickly learn to just fall back on what you've done before that's been successful. You're kind of afraid to try new things because 90% of the time it doesn't work, and this is why one of the things companies do is they hire in a lot of consultants to try and not necessarily tell them anything they don't know, but just sort of reinforce what they already kind of knew, give them more confidence, and say, well, it's not just me that thinks this. We got a consultant who's supposedly an expert, and they told us that we should do this, so I'm feeling more confident about doing it. You ever seen that? You ever seen companies like hire a consultant to tell them what they already know? You might have seen that if it's something like an HR type thing, right? Because then employees are more involved, right? There's a horrible work environment. It's toxic. Everybody hates each other, and it's not very efficient. And this is plain as day to anyone who sets foot into that building and sees that company. But the company themselves, they'll hire in like an external consultant to come in and interview all the employees and see what's up, and then announce to the owner of the company, like, you really have a problem here. It's a bad company to work for. Everybody hates each other, and they're not motivated. We think you should pay attention to this, right? So it's like the most obvious thing that you just paid these people like exorbitant amounts of money to tell you, which you knew already, right? But that's why they do it. It's just a sort of confidence boost because they're unsure, They're unsure of what to do. Miguel, okay, we did Miguel. Gabriel says, I really believe that you must have business friends who compliment you. For example, I can do the web apps, but I also need someone who is very good at marketing or business like yourself. It looks very important to complement each other in business. Yes, like that's the thing. Now, that's been often talked about in the context of startups, right? If you're starting a company with, say, a partner, the conventional wisdom is that, like I said, nobody can be really strong in every area. You usually have one or two areas that you kind of know what you're doing, but the other areas are kind of alien to you. They might be alien to your personality, as well as your skills. So the conventional wisdom is to partner with somebody who has a complementary skill set. What you're weak in, they're strong in. So between the two of you, you got everything more or less covered. Now, in my experience advising startup founders and things for many years, that sounds really good on paper, but in practice, there's a lot of problems with that because, first of all, trying to find two people that have opposite sort of strengths and weaknesses who get along really, really well and trust each other like siblings, that's hard. Because usually what you see is, a lot of businesses, when they start up and they try and grow, things go wrong. They guess and they guess incorrectly and something doesn't work. And that's when you get problems because you have two people running the show. Maybe one of them's like an operations type person, the other one's a sales type person. And they do this. They blame each other. They say, well, if you would make a better product, then I could actually sell it. And then the other person says, well, there's nothing wrong with my products. If maybe you knew how to actually sell something, maybe, we'd make more money, And that's the thing. When things are going wrong and they're not going well and it's looking bleak, that's when people turn on each other. And that's the problem with people that are quite different working with each other. Because if you were the same, you would agree all the time on things. You have the same perspective. But if you're different, you have different perspectives, and you also have different perspectives on whose fault it is, right? And what needs to be done. And that's where you run into problems, right? So that's the flip side. It's not a bad strategy, Gabriel, to partner with people that have complementary skill sets. It's a great idea. But in practice, there's a lot of practical difficulties. You need to be with people that stick by you even when things are looking pessimistic. That's the challenge. If everything was peaches and cream, everything was always working out and you were making more and more money all the time, you could get along with anyone, right? You could get along with people you really can't stand because everything's going great. But, it's when things are not going great that you get all kinds of issues. This is where we come back to this business here. Where was it? Organizational theory, right? This is where you're looking at things from that perspective. You're saying, I'm not going to partner with people that I know are talented because they all have the same skill sets as me. We don't need 5 people that can all do what I do, but I need one other person that can do all the things I don't know how to do, right? So if you're really paying attention to this, it could contradict with some of these other things, right? So that's the issue. Hamza says, "What's up?" That's not said enough at board meetings. I think there should be a chairman of the board or something that comes in and just goes, "What's up?" Like that. That's how you start your quarterly meeting. I mean, that would be awesome. Maybe everyone's drinking absinthe and a cigarette through a filter or something, those cigarette holders, right? Stroking a white cat or something. I don't know, But I don't think they don't say that in James Bond movies. So I'm not sure if that would be appropriate, You got your white cat, but you're probably not going to go, "What's up?" Right? Anyway, what the hell am I talking about? See, this is what business is all about. You stick with this channel, you will learn how to grow a company, I guarantee. Okay, Youssef says, "Hello, Bill. The question remains, how do I create something people really find valuable?" Okay, excellent question. Now listen, if I knew the answer to that in every situation, I would be like a trillionaire. Okay, nobody knows the answer to that. But here's what we can say, okay? Part of it is having the knowledge that an introvert might have, like in a very general sense. They understand the subject matter. They understand operations. So if you're like Gabriel and you're a developer, you can write code, you can create apps, okay? And debug software and stuff like that. If you're wondering like, what can I make that other people will really want? Okay, they'll find it valuable. Okay, part of it is understanding how to code, what you can do, what is physically possible to do, and and even more important, what you can do. Okay, doesn't matter what's possible in theory. what's possible for you? What can you deliver? Okay. Right. So you would need technical knowledge of how to develop. You need to know what can be done with all the computer languages and the tools we have at our disposal, right? Then the other thing that is absolutely essential, okay, to doing this is understanding your customers. So that marketing element, okay? Because you don't understand the customer's perspective on what you're doing. Usually a lot of introverts find that they can do something that they think is amazing. They think like, wow, everyone should want this. But the problem is they create something and then they find that nobody does want it. They should want it, but they don't, right? And you really don't know how to convince them of this. You might have thought it's just as simple as putting up a sign or doing a demo or releasing a video, showing off your thing. And then when people see it, they will immediately conclude that like, I need that. That is amazing. I need to get out my wallet right now and shove money in this person's face, right? The problem is you're missing that perspective on marketing. You know, it doesn't matter what people should want. It matters what do they want and what you can convince them of very easily that they should want it. If you have to educate them to get them to want your thing, chances are it's going to fail. They have to realize they want it upon seeing it. No education necessary, you know? So for that, the challenge is not what you can do. The challenge is, how do these people think? What do they know? What do they understand? If I advertise this app and I say it does this, do they even know what that is? Maybe if I explained for 5 minutes, they would know what it is. They would instantly realize that they need it. But the problem is, I can't explain for 5 minutes to every potential customer. They would never sit for the explanation. And even if they could, even if they would, I don't have the resources to do that. If I make a video, they're not going to watch the video. I'd have to like I'd have to make them watch the video somehow, and I can't do that. Right? That's the problem. So in order to understand that problem, the nature of the problem and how to solve it, you got to talk to a marketing person. Marketing people would have the complete opposite ideas than you. They don't care what people should want. They only care what people do want right now. That's the only thing that matters to them. What value they recognize, what opinions they have now, no matter how diluted, they only care about that, right? So that's the other piece of the puzzle. So you would also have to have an understanding of that, so that when you create this thing and you show it off, people go, oh, yes, I need that. Oh, it's $1,000? No problem, right? You know, right? It has nothing to do with how to write code. Absolutely nothing. It was the choice of what to deliver and how to package it, right? So you need to have a detailed knowledge of that. And that tends to be skills that extroverts have because they are more tuned into other people and what other people think. They tend to care about it more. They tend to be, more, they have more data on that than, say, an introvert does. So you need those two things to come together, right? Now, a lot of times people talk about famous business people like Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, right? Elon Musk. People that have succeeded like wildly beyond expectations. These are usually wild exceptions. They're not the rule. They're the exceptions to the rule. And they're like outlying data points way out on the edge. These are people that a lot of times guessed correctly about, the second part of what I said, the understanding the market. They had enough of both of those to be able to do something. But it was a lot of luck. It was a lot of like guessing correctly, just turned out to be right. They were at the right place at the right time and they just guessed correctly. And then lo and behold, it turned out that way. In some cases, they were technical people like Bill Gates. Bill Gates understood, how to write software, but was less tuned into, what people, what customers out in the world, were thinking like. And I mean, I'm not an expert on analyzing Bill Gates' success or anything, but it really seems to me like he just guessed correctly and had some technical chops, but he was at the right place at the right time with the right opportunity. Bam, right? You get people that have the opposite, people that they might not have the technical chops, but they can rope someone else into doing the technical stuff for them, like Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs wasn't a complete idiot. I mean, he had some technical skills. He was as I understand it, he was an engineer. But he was much more famous for his, sales and marketing visionary, skills. So he kind of led the design of a product and all this kind of stuff. And he just happened to have some brilliant people with him that could do all the operation stuff, that could bring that innovative, create that truly innovative product, like the Apple II, right? But these are like wild exceptions. My point is that you can't base your plans and experiences on these cases because those are wild. It's like saying this person once won the lottery, so I'm going to do what they do. I'm going to live the life they led, and I'm going to get the same result, winning the lottery, ending up with billions of dollars. It's like, well, that's probably not going to work, right? That was a wild exception to the rule. Most people who play the lottery do not win, right? So it's about like what tends to work, right? The question remains, how do I create something people really find valuable? Values influence perception. Okay, yeah. Gabriel says, where do I find competent marketing people who want to actually make it? Well, this is the thing. You see, look, like I said, I don't have the answers to solve this in every possible case. What I can tell you is that I have worked with a lot of startup founders that have tried this approach. They've said, look, I'm a say technical person. I can write code, I can do technology, whatever it is, but I'm not a salesperson. I'm not a marketing person. So I'm going to partner with somebody. I'm going to find someone that will do that for me. I haven't seen a lot of success at people doing that because there is right now a person who's your opposite, who is extroverted. They're tuned into people and they understand kind of what people want and all of this, but they don't have the technical skills. They don't have anything to deliver to them. They also might have some of the flaws of an extroverted personality sometimes, which can be like a lack of focus. They get bored easily, like this kind of thing. But the problem is they want to do their own thing. They're not necessarily looking to partner with you any more than you are looking to partner with them. You each have your own sort of desire to go it alone. You know what I mean? And trying to shove those two people together is hard. They won't stay together when the going gets tough. And they usually are opposites. They usually don't see eye to eye. So they don't really, it's not like you meet and you instantly become best friends. It's the opposite of that. You meet and you don't think much of the other person. They kind of annoy you. That's usually how this stuff goes. What I would say is my philosophy behind this is that you yourself should get tuned into all the areas you need. And there's three areas. There's the operations, there's the marketing, and then a distant third is the accounting, like is the financial side of things. Because it is important. If you set yourself a task where it's going to cost you $150,000 to get started, you can see the problems with that, right? So you need to round up your skills and start thinking like these people. The good news is that if you're a technical introvert like me, learning the sort of marketing side of it is not as hard as you might think. Now, I haven't planned this. This is all off the top of my head, but there is a channel on YouTube. What's the channel? I think it's called JHS Pedals. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of that channel. It's a channel where it's run by a guy who owns a company that makes guitar pedals. Excuse me. So if you play electric guitar, they have these little devices, electronic devices that you can run the sound through the device and it changes the sound. Okay. Anyway, this guy owns a company where they build that and they sell thousands of these units to music stores, and they're sold on to musicians. Now, he's got a very distinct mannerism and personality. He's very low-key introvert type. But I mention him because I think his name is Josh. But I mention him because although he's like a technical type who can build guitar pedals, like these devices that are essentially electronics, he also built the company by also doing the sales. So in order to do that, my understanding is that he would hang out down at a lot of music stores, talking to the owners of the stores and people who work behind the counter, and understanding like what the customers are into, how they think, what products do they tend to go for, what they tend to be interested in, things like that. And you do that for a number of years, where you're just hanging out in those environments, talking to the players that run the stores, or you talk to the owners of the stores and you say, how do you get your products? Oh, from a distributor. Okay, let's talk to distributors. How do they get their products? How do they get them into the stores? And then you start talking to these people, and then next thing you know, you're selling them consignments of your product on consignment. And next thing you know, you're a player in this. And if you understand enough about how to make a product that the customers want, you're making sales, and then you're in the business, right? So there's an example of a technical introvert type that learned, as is my understanding, they learned the sales and marketing side by immersing themselves in the industry and just talking to a ton of people about guitar pedals. And, they did that stuff themselves. So when you scale up, then you hire someone who's like the head of your sales and marketing, and you offload a lot of it onto them. And maybe you offload a lot of the engineering and stuff onto somebody else. But the point is that they did all those roles themselves. And that's good because it allows them to run the company and make better decisions properly because they understand those different areas. It's not like you hire an accountant to be in charge of your company who doesn't understand how anything works in that business, right? But it illustrates the reality of this. If you're starting a business, you might think that you're on a journey to go from where you are now to profitability. It's like a journey of money, and it's not. It's not a journey of money. It's not a journey of sales. It's a journey of knowledge, to understand your customers and understand what you could deliver them. So the sooner you get started on that journey, the more successful you will be, and the sooner it will happen. So that's what I'd recommend. I wouldn't look for someone to offload that stuff onto. I would try and do it yourself. And if you have problems with inspiration to want to do this, just realize that understanding how people think about, say, software is the key to you making $1 million selling software. If you understand how people view it and what they want and what they need and how they view things, the more of that you understand, the more successful you will be. That's what your journey really is. Does that make sense? Art Sim is kind of changing the subject a little bit. Says, how come likable, lazy people get promoted, but hardworking, quiet people don't? Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate to try and answer that question for you. How do you know that they're hardworking? Yeah, okay, sure. If you see yourself as one of those people, you know that you're hardworking. But how do you know that these other people that you don't know are hardworking? What you do know is that nobody likes them. I'm taking an extreme example here, but that's the opposite of what you're saying, right? You're saying the lazy people get promoted. They're likable but lazy. They get promoted. And you're saying the hardworking, quiet people don't. Okay? Here's the answer to that question that I've learned over the course of my career. Obviously, working hard is good, okay? But it's not as good as you think. You see, if you ever get to be the boss, and I'm sure you will at some point in your life, what you're going to see is that you might have two employees under you. One is lazy but likable. The other one is hardworking but quiet. Now, right now, you think that the hardworking and quiet one is the one that you would prefer. Okay? That's the assumption you're making. And I can totally see why you're doing this. And I'm not saying you're necessarily wrong, but what I am saying is that the implication is that they're not likable, right? In your example, you said this one is likable and they're getting promoted, right? Okay, so that makes the assumption that this other person is less likable. Okay, what you're going to find is that you would much rather deal with the likable employee, even though they're lazy, than you would want to deal with the unlikable employee, even though they're hardworking. That's what you're going to find. Now, if you disagree with me, that's fine. I can't prove this to you. All I can say is that when you actually get to that position, this is probably what you're going to find. That's what I found. Because what I found is that there's a lot of people that are technically very good at their job, a lot of technical introvert types, a lot of engineer types. I have a degree in engineering. I've grown up with engineers, and I've worked with a lot of introverts. But when I got to be in charge of things, I had to then work with engineers, and I hated it because I found that these people, first of all, their communication was terrible. They think they're good communicators, but they're not. Then they're arrogant as hell, and they argue about everything all the time because they think they know better all the time than you. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. And even if they do, they're not polite about it. So every time I'd have to deal with them, I'd get an argument, and I'd get this really annoying arrogance. And quite frankly, when I started dealing with extroverts, people in sales and marketing, you can say what you want about, in general, about their work ethic and maybe their attention to detail and stuff. I grant you. But when you approach someone and they listen and they are polite to you and they don't just say snippy, rude things for no reason to you, and they're actually pleasant to deal with, you start thinking, you know what, I'd much rather deal with these people than the engineering department. If I have a project I got to give to someone, I'd rather give it to these people because you know what, I can deal with them and I enjoy dealing with them. Those people, if I give it to them, I'm going to have an argument, I'm going to have pushback, right? So you realize at the end of the day that, I'd rather have things pretty well done and happy, and I'm happy about it, rather than I'd have them exceptionally well done, but I want to kill myself, right? So that's the experience of a lot of bosses, okay? And a lot of introverts I found, don't get me wrong, I'm an introvert, and I know the strengths of introverts and some technical people, but they have a blind spot for how hard they are to deal with and how off-putting they are. And the people that tune into this and tack on some of those skills, those interpersonal skills, they really win because you get the best of both worlds. They're great at what they do, but yet they're easy to deal with, and they understand things like they might not always get their way, right? We've spent this episode talking about how in business there's a lot of conflicting goals and compromises. The boss has all kinds of constraints put on them. They would love to be able to give their introverted technical underling exactly what that person wants, but they can't. And the last thing they want now is a big argument to them about it when they're not even responsible for the constraints. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's all very rambling and unstructured, but hopefully you get the idea. So that's one contributing factor. People want to be around people that are easy to deal with and make them feel good about themselves, not people that constantly bring up problem after problem after problem after problem, and it just never ends. You know what I mean? So that stuff does matter. And a lot of technical introverts have a blind spot for precisely that, and that's what holds them back, in my experience. So you be one of the ones that's tuned into this, and your career will take off. Because not only will you be competent, but people will want to deal with you. And when they do deal with you, they will enjoy dealing with you. And that kicks ass. That becomes like a real prized employee, if you want to be an employee. Some people don't. Some people want to just run their own business, but if that's what you're looking for. Hamza says, I want to drop a comment here, but it's too long. Even super chats have limits. Where can I drop my long comment? Don't drop a long comment, Hamza. I mean, like, what do you want to write me, like, an essay? That shouldn't be necessary. You need to learn how to summarize your thoughts. Start with like an overview, and then we can get into details if it goes in that direction. Okay. Art Sim says, I know guys that work that talk all day, but really don't do work or complete tasks, and they get promoted. Yeah, I'm sure you do. That does happen. Gabriel says, a lot of technical people, especially IT people, have very, very poor language skills. Yes. And it's really a shame, because if they could, like those, like, look, if you can write code, or you understand engineering, or you can do triple integrals or whatever, I mean, that, like, language skills can be child's play to that stuff. You know what I mean? So it's just ironic that, you've mastered these like highly complex things, but yet this relatively simple thing, like, for example, having manners, having just like a handful of little etiquette things and how to talk to people, they don't realize those. It's almost like you would need a coach, but I don't think these people would even listen to a coach. You know what I mean? So hopefully people will tune in to the fact that, like, okay, maybe I need some improvement in my social skills. Maybe things would go better for me. Maybe people might think of me when they decide they need to promote someone. Maybe they'll consider me, right? Instead of promoting the only people they happen to get along with and make them feel good talking to. But it turns out those people are kind of lazy and they're not very good. They should be promoting me. And I'm not challenging that, but why aren't they? It's probably because you have a blind spot for some of the importance of some of the social stuff and your abilities doing the social stuff. Which is good news, because if you realize this, it's not that hard to change. It just takes a little learning and then a little bit of practice, and you can be competing with those lazy people for those promotions and get them. Art Sim, that makes so much sense. Good. I don't know what you're referring to, but I'm just going to interpret that as everything I've said makes so much sense, and it's enlightening, and it has changed your life forever. So I'm glad to have helped you with that. Gabriel says, and I used to be one, and once I changed companies, I got slapped in the face when I behaved in a certain way. Okay, hopefully that's figuratively, not literally. Art says, but my boss is dumb. That's how you win the argument. You just say, yeah, well, you're dumb. And then nothing more needs to be said, right? You win, hands down. You have bested them, right? Just whatever someone says that you don't know how to respond to, just say, yeah, well, you're dumb. And that also works in board meetings. If the board meeting started with a "What's up?" then that's how it ends. So that would be a good board meeting. Oh, look at that! We've reached the end of the chat. Well, this has been great. I started out talking about an actual topic, and then it just devolved into some rambling kind of thing that turned into a pseudo answering of questions in the chat, but not really. This is perfect. I'm very proud of how I conducted this today. Hopefully you guys got something out of it. If you do want to go further, public service announcement, this is the part of the stream where I plug my courses, with that one in particular. So if you want to learn business properly from me, not this rambling kind of thing that I did today, but if you want to actually learn it properly, I have this course called the $100 MBA. And there's a link to it in the description box under this video. Check it out. You learn everything that you learn in a university MBA program. That's how much you learn from it. because it's basically you're getting a reading list of textbooks, not written by me, but the same textbooks that are used in places like Harvard Business School in their MBA program. You're learning the same material as you would learn in those programs. Okay, now you can skim the books. You can read them in detail and do all the problems. Like, you can go to the depth you're wanting to go to. And if you're just wanting a cursory overview of all this material, that's what you can get. It's pretty quick. If you're wanting to really go deep and really tack on some, fierce management skills that will help you in your career, or they'll certainly help you in starting a business, you can get that too. It's going to take you a lot longer. Now, I've provided a lot of videos that go with the material. I give you my take on stuff. I do overviews of the material, but really you learn it from the books, right? So anyway, if that sounds interesting to you, all for $100 US, like that's the appeal. Just the best bang for the buck. Check that out. Okay, link in the description. I have another live stream this afternoon. I'm not sure if I'm doing a collaboration or not. I reached out to a person I've collaborated with before on these joint live streams, but I'm not sure if they can make it. So we'll see. But I will be back with either that or a solo thing where I talk about job search and answer questions to do with that. Yeah, I'm actually overdue. No, I'm not. No, it starts at 3, not at 2. I'm an hour out. So in about 45 minutes, I'll be back with that. Okay, let's get back in the chat here. We got some people talking. ArtSim, what makes sense is that I need to focus more on soft skills versus tech skills. Yeah, if you've got your technical chops down, yeah, get the social skills to max. The social skills to match. Excuse me. This is why I'm such a good speaker. My social skills are above reproach. Hamza says, don't end it. Okay. There we go. Julia says, thank you, Bill. Happy New Year 2025 to you and everyone. Same to you, Julia. Thank you very much. I hope everybody has a good New Year, and I wish you all the best in 2025. Just a personal note here. My wife every year has an intuition, claims she has an intuition about the new year. She either has a good vibe, this is going to be a good year, or she has kind of a dread related vibe. This is not going to be a good year. And she's been right, because she's made the call and then it turns out someone gets cancer, or she's made the call and something terrible happens. And so I've learned to respect that. I'm not a superstitious person or anything, but I pay attention to what she says. She says she has a great feeling about 2025. Hopefully, I won't be eating my words anytime soon, but that makes me feel optimistic. Hopefully, you guys have a great 2025, whatever your goals are. If you're just looking for a job, or you're looking to start a company, or you're looking to make more money, or whatever you're trying to do, I wish you all the best. Sometimes good things are a little bit long in coming, but we get there. Hamza says, by the way, it is a little bit unrelated, but I would like some insights. Love from Norway. Okay, insights on what? I see. You're okay. Here we go. My feed didn't move, so I didn't see the rest of it. I have a degree in management and experience in a ceramic course instructor and manager for my dad, as he is a ceramic artist. I built his website and managed his social media accounts. I got him grants for many things. I did all of this for 4 years plus. I would like to be a department manager for a ceramic workshop in my municipality. I would do ceramic workshops for the public sector, workshops held on site at schools, okay? And that would be very good for improved mental state and even strengthen the community ties. What do you think? Yeah, I think that's a good goal. It's in line with what your skills are. Should I contact someone responsible for this field in the municipality directly, or try to convince them? I also did many workshops for schools and youth clubs in my city. Listen, it's hard for me to just, someone gives me like a paragraph about their life and says, what should I do? Listen, I can't say what you should do. I really don't know the details. I need to know details, like lots of details about your life. And even then, it would be hard to tell you, you need to do this. It's clearly the way ahead. What you've said here sounds like a plan, okay? In addition to what you've said here, okay, first of all, the big question that was forming in my mind is, are you looking for a job, or are you looking for more of an entrepreneurial type venture when it comes to ceramics and IT and all this kind of stuff? Because those are two sort of different directions, right? If you got skills in these areas, you could do either, right? You could do both even and see where it goes. But one thing that will help you with both, i.e. getting a job or learning about business opportunities if you're going to try and do some entrepreneurial venture, is doing informational interviews, okay? So think of the people that could help you, okay? So if you're doing a ceramics type operation and you're selling ceramics, who are the customers for that? Are they the public, like, little arts and crafts type things? Or is it more like industrial stuff? You do more, industrial centerpieces for like large new buildings or decor, for almost ties into the construction industry. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure what the applications for ceramics are. It could also be industrial processes. It might not even be art at all. It's just an industrial process like steel manufacturing, right? You're doing ceramics, right? Maybe they use them in aerospace. Maybe they use them in construction. I don't know. So find out who are the people in that industry, like that ecosystem, that buy ceramics, or they are plugged into that industry somehow. Is there an industry association for that? How could you sell ceramics? Who buys them? And find those players and start doing informational interviews with people in that business. And go to the events, if there's any events like trade shows. It could be arts and crafts for ceramics. It could be aerospace industry association events where they show off the latest, like, thermal tiles and all this kind of stuff for, like, I don't know, things. Whatever the demand for ceramics is, plug into those industries and start talking to people. Learn how to reach out to people and get an informational interview. I've got a lot of stuff on my channel that talks about that. If you want the whole thing in one place, I have it in that course, right? And that's how you can become aware of opportunities to work with people, or to partner with people, or anything like that. Get it, institutional customers, that sort of thing. Okay, so informational interviews, learn how to do them, learn how to get them, and start doing them with people in your industry, and that will bring a lot of opportunities your way. Swinder says, hey man, I know you don't do emails, so I'll just leave it here. I'm currently studying in the Netherlands, but I always had a dream of working in the US. A couple of months ago, by some stroke of luck, I got asked to do an interview for a high-tech internship in Silicon Valley. Your videos have really helped me a lot to prepare for the interviews and mitigate my stress. I'm happy to say after 2 rounds of interviews, I got the internship offer. Well, congratulations. Thank you. You are the man to keep up. I am the man. Swinder, you are the man. I'm assuming you are a man. I'm not sure, but the amount of times you dropped the word man in your blurb here it's just stuck in my mind. So hopefully you are in fact a man, in which case you are the man. Congratulations. I'm glad it worked out. And, don't stop here. Keep going. Keep looking for opportunities as you go. Think of what comes after the internship. Be tuned into that. While you're in an internship, you've got an opportunity to get several things. 1, you can get references. 2, you can get letters of recommendation from the people that are around you. 3, there are a lot of networking opportunities within, now that you're on the inside of these companies. Okay? You can use that to get access to the bosses or to people at other companies. They'll take you a lot more seriously if now you're on the inside of this other company that they deal with, right? So there's a lot of opportunities there. There might even be an employment opportunity to work there when you're done. Okay, so there's a lot of things you can get out of an internship. Be tuned into that stuff as you go, and when your internship is over, have all these different things to show for it and have other things lined up. that you got for yourself, okay, because of your internship. Don't just like switch off your brain and stop all this kind of activity now that you're in, okay? You could really clean up if you keep going. But congratulations. Hamza says, definitely looking for a job. Yes, it is not where I sell ceramic pieces. It is just that people make their own pots themselves. I guide them to make their own mugs and art. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, like look, I don't know the ceramics business, but you do. So what I'm saying is, step a little bit out of yourself and start connecting with people in these businesses, right? People that know about it, people that are hubs that can help you. You know what I mean? And the more people you talk to about what's going on and where things are going and all this kind of stuff, more of the players in these businesses, the more opportunities will come your way, right? If nothing else, let's say there wasn't an opportunity, but you had an interesting conversation with somebody. Well, that person now goes into your contact list. So if ever you have a question about something, you could potentially call that person back up. And if they run a company or anything like that, that can be pretty useful, right? They might not be able to help you directly, but maybe down the line, there might be some opportunities. So tune into that stuff and put some time into it, and it can take you places. The problem with introverts is that if we stay within ourselves and we never interact with anyone outside, it's hard to know what's going on, know what opportunities are there, and it's hard to put ourselves forward to be considered for opportunities because we're just out of it, right? In order to make things happen, you need to make connections, and the connections can be largely virtual. You could do it over the internet and stuff. But that's what I advocate for how to do informational interviews. You connect with people and set up informational interviews all virtually, all online. But then you go down and you have a face-to-face conversation with the person. Okay? And it's really not as hard as you would think, because when you get an informational interview lined up, they're inviting you in. They're saying, yes, I would like to talk to you. Come on down. This is a convenient time for me right here. If you come down, I'll give you 45 minutes or whatever. We can talk about whatever you want. You're being invited in, right? So it doesn't feel like a job interview where it almost feels like you're unwelcome a lot of the time. It's a much more positive thing. And these people want to talk to you. You're not forcing yourself on them. If they didn't want to talk to you, they wouldn't respond and say, yes, come on down, right? So that's the approach I advocate for. It works great for introverts, and it helps you to develop some of these social skills. All you really need to do is be able to ask somebody questions about what they do. That's really not that hard. And have a smile on your face. Like, you're not sitting there like this, you're looking pleasant, saying, hey, thanks for asking me to come down. It's a pleasure to meet you. And I'd love to get your opinion on where this industry is going. Do you think the future is more with this or with that? What do you think? Just being able to do something like that is all I need to do. And people will love you and they'll talk to you. And now you've got a new connection that can open doors for you. So check it out. Learn about that stuff. Where did I leave off here? Online is a bit hard. Yeah. Face-to-face, there is a chance. Yeah, well, it's a combination. You do all the connecting and trying to set things up. You do all that online. I mean, there's many ways of doing it. You could do it so many different ways, but this is a way that I think works really well for introverts. It's also a way that I know about because I've done it for years building a consulting business. So I know what I'm talking about. So that's why I feel pretty confident in recommending it to other people, because I've done it. It works. I've also taught students how to do this in university. So, I know it works. But yeah, so check that out. That's how you can kind of like tack on some of the networking skills, some of the marketing skills, and then you could use that to help you to create something that would be of value. That's what we were talking about originally. Okay. It's been like an hour and a half. I'm going to start winding this down. Thank you for being here. You guys are awesome. Check out my courses. That one if you want to learn business. This one if you wanted to do the informational interview thing and learn how to do that the way I recommend, with templates and procedures and all that. Links in the description of this video. I will be back with another episode of this live stream next week, Side Hustle Ideas, where we talk about entrepreneurship. I will be back in about half an hour doing some live stream, either collaboration or something solo. So if you want to talk about job search or anything like that, stay on the line, come back in half an hour, and I can answer your job search related questions and go from there. Thanks very much. You guys are awesome. I wish you nothing but the best, and I hope everyone everywhere has a happy new year. Take care of yourselves.